everybody. Welcome back to another fun episode of the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. So happy that you're here. We are going to spend a lot of time today helping you do the most important thing, which is to be that lawyer, someone who's confident, organized, and a skilled rainmaker. And we do that by interviewing some of the most amazing guests you could ever want to hear from, including rainmakers and legal experts all over the world. Today, I've got a top player for you guys. You're going to be very excited. A friend of mine, Phil. How you doing, Phil?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, Steve?
All right. You got that new microphone. You got your like DJ voice ready to go too.
It's so awesome. I don't know how I participated in Zoom for 3.5 years without this thing. So
Without the
I'm excited.
microphone.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, the sound's pretty good without it, but with it, it definitely kicks it up a notch. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So
Got to thank my my boy Doug Sandler for that.
all right. We're going to give a shout out to Doug Sandler and his team out in Turnkey Podcast, who's been helping me and all the people I know that want to do podcasts to be successful for year after year. So shout out to Doug and his team, Strick and everybody. You guys are awesome. All right. So I'm super excited about not only having you on the podcast, but also you have a quote of the show, which is not only one of my favorite quotes, but one of my favorite episodes from the show Seinfeld. And that is, if every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be right.
That's
And
right.
that entire episode is just mind blowing, just like the most fun, funny episode. But why, Phil, would you choose out of every quote that particular one? And welcome to the show, by the way.
Hey, thanks. Yeah. So, I'm assuming when you send out that question, you want something, pretty philosophical or something from a book or, something. But, guess what? That the things that inspire me are things that are funny, things that make me happy and it's just relatable. And the reason I brought that quote up, especially when we talk about networking, is it's 100% true. Everybody tries to follow, the networking for dummies process. They get that yellow book and try to figure out how to do it. But what's interesting, and hopefully we'll drill down on it today, is that it's actually the exact opposite of what people think is what's successful in networking.
Yeah. And I have a feeling we're going to dig down and really give a lot of great ideas for lawyers that are maybe being ineffective with their networking and would really appreciate hearing some wisdom. So let's jump in and just share that Phil Fornaro, a managing attorney at Fornaro Law, is a friend of mine, a client in my Rainmaker Roundtable, top Rainmaker in the Chicagoland area. And give a little bit of your background, how you came to be Reader's Digest style.
We have popular culture, Reader's Digest. I think that's awesome.
Does anybody know what that is? How do you even think about that?
Yeah, that's funny. But most of our listeners, most people are probably listening here are akin to what that means.
I'll define it. It means a shorter version of the full thing.
Got it.
What is that? It used to be a little magazine, right?
Yeah, the Reader's Digest. Yeah, it was a big deal.
Wow.
Real big deal. So it's interesting is when the start of my practice does not look like anything that I'm doing now. And, our outside general counsel model now is basically a culmination of all the things that I've done for now 29 years in November. And what I remember doing is just trying everything. When I first started, it was clearly just West Suburban Bar Association, the bar associations, figuring out what those people were like. But what I had to do is, I didn't even know I was doing it, and now I understand it's the core of how I network, was to establish relationships, first with friends, then with family, then with people in the industry, and then, learning what didn't work, the hard sell, the Google ads, whatever it was. But everything sort of flowed from whatever market I was in. So if someone says, and we'll talk about this, maybe, have the same elevator speech every single time, 100%, go back to Seinfeld, that's 100% wrong. You have to follow the flow of everything that is in the industry. So, for example, when the market was down, we were 100% the top short sale and foreclosure defense attorneys doing closings while our peers were at Starbucks getting insurance. And it's the idea of figuring out who are the core people, who are the people that you want to approach that are going to help. And that sort of helped me develop. And I made so many mistakes. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on Google ads, and my retention and my conversion rate was 0.0 Animal House like.
Okay.
So, but that's it. Just learning and trying to figure it out. There's more, but yeah, that's it.
So then how did you transition to being the managing partner of a firm and just crushing it out in the Chicagoland area?
So what happened was, my boss, my old boss, John Dvorak, who's my mentor. I love that guy. He actually was a great network here locally. He introduced me to a lot of my contacts locally, which are the basis of all the things that I'm doing now. I occasionally call him and tell him that because, I love him as a person and as a mentor. So what converted me to something more important was that I finally figured out who my community was. And I finally figured out that it's not me that's the core of my networking. It's the people that I interact with, and they're the ones that sell for me. And it's funny, Steve. Yesterday, I had lunch with Ken Levinson, who's a local attorney here, and he's a Chicago attorney.
He's in our roundtables.
Yeah, and actually, it's my podcast that I'm doing is called Light Bulb Moments. I had a huge light bulb moment from just talking to him, and I appreciate you for that organization because I've only been in it a short while, and it just really, really opened my eyes because I never network with attorneys. I only network with people that aren't attorneys, and I didn't know, but my network brought me to you, and you brought me to Ken and the rest, and I appreciate that. So what really was cool was I said, I really haven't marketed for about a year and a half because we have so much business at Fornaro Law. And we have attorneys. I'm on a big recruitment process now. But he goes, I don't know if that's right, Phil. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, you are now naturally networking at every step of your life. It's instinctual to you. And I go, oh my goodness, my light bulb moment is like, holy cow, he's right. I'm not trying to market or network, but as a result of my just normal conversation, we're bringing in business, connecting people, and networking. It was phenomenal. So, see, you didn't even know you were helping me yesterday, Steve, and you were.
Well, it's like that's the tip of the mountain when when you realize it's all been internalized this whole time, and you just keep rinsing and repeating. I mean, I met with an old guy who called me out of the blue, and his wife needs something. She's an attorney, and she's in a lawsuit, and she's over her pay grade or over heels with it. And like, I didn't skip a beat. I'm like, yeah, send me a couple sentences. I'm going to send that out to a bunch of lawyers in med mal and other areas that I think are relevant to this. And I'll find you a name. Like, I don't even think about it. It's just, that's what I do. And I think there's people that get to that point in their networking career that it's just instinctual. And I think you're there. I think I'm there. And I think Ken is there. Ken Levinson, shout out to Kenny. So let's talk a little.
You're there more than us. You're phenomenal.
Well,
you really are. It's unbelievable.
I'm doing what I mean, to your point earlier, holy crap, have I made mistakes? I mean, I start off my networking handbook saying no one's made more mistakes than me. But ultimately it's what we learn and what we improve and what we internalize that makes it happen naturally. But many lawyers are still out there struggling, making the same mistakes that we used to make. And what do you think, what are some of the top mistakes that you're seeing other professionals make around networking? Some things that they're not thinking about or not doing.
Yeah. So the core mistake, I mean, it all surrounds this one thing. They don't listen. So what happens is you go into a group of people and you're all set and fired up. You've got your elevator. We talked about this before, the elevator speech, and you're hammering it and you're good and you got it polished and you're awesome. The guy's talking about something and you're not listening to what he's saying. And as a result, this guy's done with you. This guy talks too much, right? Maybe your listeners will say that I talk too much, but who knows? Yeah. So I'm just being interviewed, so it's different, I think. So
you're allowed to talk in the interview. It's actually appreciated.
Yeah, that's part of the interview process. So what I learned a long time ago is when I go into a networking situation, first I talk, and some people goes, oh, well, that person's not good enough, or this isn't the right person. I'll tell you what, every single conversation I have is critical to my growth as a person. Doesn't matter if it has nothing to do with me getting business. I'm listening to that person, understanding that person, and I don't really speak until other than to ask more questions about what they're talking about. People instinctively, I think that's the word of the show here, are very, very interested in talking about what they do. And it's cool because when you absorb them and learn about them and you get things, and then your mind starts going, connections, And
Yeah.
then the second mistake, and then I'll pause, is that you don't try to help them. You don't try to figure out what their problem is, or you don't relate or connect mentally to them. And you don't have to talk about yourself at all. It's the most wonderful thing. And you've sold that person without even trying.
Well, it's like you just basically laid down the whole foundation of networking and business development in a couple of points. So it's how good are we at listening? It's how are we in a position to respond and react when we've taken it all in? It's like a good therapist, right? You spend, asking questions, and the therapist doesn't really have to talk too much, just has to sit back and when the person feels understood and listened to, and then there's an opportunity to help them, you're just, that's like the grand prize of networking from a standpoint of how you just made someone else feel, which may ultimately be the most important thing.
That's right. Steal my thunder there.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely. How you
combined thunder
feel.
and lightning together, Phil.
That's
That's what
right.
we're making a storm of networking good ideas.
I
Um,
love it.
but there's also, practical things that we need to do that some people don't think about. And I'll give you an example. And this has really been hitting me lately. It's fine to be a giver, right? I get that. And we both get that. And most people get that. Give to gain, give to gain, give to gain. The problem is that I'm seeing people give and give and give and then wonder, when is it coming back? When in fact, what they need to do, or what they may want to consider doing, is that the person that they're giving to doesn't have the same networking chops or acumen that they have. So some people need to be coached and need to be helped in how they can give back. They want to give back. They don't know how to give back.
Mm.
So it's how are we coaching them to say, hey, you know what? I'm glad that worked out for you. They say, how can I help you? And you say, well, if you ever run into somebody. No, you need to say, look, here's who I'm looking to meet. This is who you may know. This is in your circle. And here's how I want to be introduced. And I'm going to give you a quick example too, because I'm talking a lot now. Here we go. I talked to a very high level, high profile lawyer friend of mine that I'm helping out. He helps me out. Okay. He wanted me to send him information about what I do so he could give it to a couple people. And I stopped him on the spot and I said, look, I don't know that that's the best direction. If these people trust you, and through that trust, they're going to trust me that it makes sense for us to meet. If you could just say, hey, why don't you meet with Steve for 30 minutes? Let him, get to know him, get to know what he does, tell him what you've got cooking, why you want to get to $1 million, whatever it might be. And then if they say they want to meet me, then make an email introduction. So if I had sent him the information, my guess is that it would have gone into their inboxes. They would have reviewed it. It never would have led to anything. I have 2 meetings on my schedule for tomorrow from that one meeting with that lawyer. That never would have happened if I just sent him the information, which is what he requested.
Yeah, so that's funny. I was just with the young attorney the other day, to your point here. And he was sitting there and he was, talking, and he was, no, he wasn't a young attorney. What am I talking about? He was a college kid. He's a hockey player, Roosevelt University. And we were talking, and he was, he was confused. And I introduced him. He was in the finance industry. So I called over one of my buddies from Chase, and I said, hey, come talk to this young kid. He's in your industry. He goes, oh, okay, cool. So then he said, I go, get his card. And he goes, what do you mean? Is that appropriate? I go, not only is it appropriate, he loves the fact that you're asking for his card.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's important. He goes, well, I didn't understand. I said, the conversion rate of giving your business card at an event and expecting a call back is probably 1 to 10%.
Yeah.
Getting a card, writing down the note that this guy likes the Cubs and he's going on a helicopter ride tomorrow, sending a note the day after that saying, how was your helicopter ride? And the Cubs lost again, is so impactful to that person. That person will remember you because you made him feel good. He made him understand. There's the feel word again that you brought up. And that's the most important thing, is the follow-up after you listen and you project that you listen. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just important that you do that. That's why the connection is important. What you said was important. Always have the person talk to you, because no one's going to talk like you do about what you know the most.
Yeah. I was in I run a bunch of networking groups, and there was one I was in, and we were doing a small, like 5-person roundtable. And, the idea was that we would share what we do, who we're looking to meet, and then, see where it would lead. And there were a couple people taking notes and there were a couple people that weren't. And I stopped the meeting and I kind of said, hey guys, I just want to let you know the folks at this table that are taking notes, they're going to be the ones that are going to give out connections and that are going to be helpful. The people that are not taking notes, you're not going to remember any of this and you're not going to be really helpful to anybody. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I'm letting you know, if you really want to be proactive in helping others, you might want to write some things down. You don't have a steel trap for a brain. So, you know, and I hate to be that, straightforward, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to remember Cubs. I'm not going to remember helicopter. I'm not going to remember two children, 6 and 9 years old, if I don't write things down. It's
That's
just not, that's not the way brains work with the millions of messages we're getting bombarded with each day. So when you think about networking and how it leads to business without thinking about it leading to business, or, I mean, I guess that would be what I'd ask you is what's your like mental strategy about giving to others, helping others, and it'll come back, but you don't have to think about that, or you are thinking about that?
No, I'm not thinking about it at all. It's sort of
Okay.
counterintuitive. Back to Seinfeld.
There we go.
I basically do not care if it comes back to me. If I'm helping somebody, adding value, making someone feel good about themselves, making someone feel good about what they're doing, connecting them to the right person, it's that joy of people getting those light bulb moments or aha moments, go, oh my God, thank you. What can I do for you? Nothing. Nothing. Because I guarantee you, and it's this delayed gratification thing. Nobody understands that the more good you do for the world, the more it comes back. And I'm a big energy guy, but that's the world's circular. You're bad to people, it's karma, whatever you want to call it. It'll come back bad to you. But the more you give without expecting a return, gratuity, or anything at all, even a thank you. I don't even care about a thank you. I care about the reaction I get. So if I can do more and I'm helping people, that's my gratification. I want them to do better. And I guarantee it. Again, it's easy to say, oh, well, you always get the business. It doesn't matter. It's not why. And if you think about it differently, then you'll start and just try it. That's what I tell all my young attorneys. Just try something. Try that. And don't ask them for business. If it's going to come, and it could be the rich uncle that comes back to you because I heard you help my niece and thank you very much. You're a good guy. Who cares how it comes? And it doesn't matter because it's all about making the world a better place.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I've had so many conversations with attorneys about, in particular, making the legal industry a better place and leaving it better than we found it. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but I've invested 17 years in this group, and I want to have a legacy. I want to, let business development and networking in this interview continue on far beyond, my years, and just help them realize that, client development's not what they signed up for. And it's not what you signed up for. I get it. However, it's, times are a changing. And if you want to be successful long-term in your career, learning networking, learning time management, learning business development, personal branding, it's sort of, eat or be eaten.
Yeah. And what you said, so many things there that I want to respond to in a positive way. The interesting thing about client development and business development and everything you just said is that it's resulted in my best and most fulfilling relationships. And I'm not just talking about, relationships with people that you see on the street or in the community, my clients, my strategic partners, they become my dear friends, and and they'll do anything for me. And it's like,
Yeah.
that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go out and interact with them and ask about their kids or go and be with them at events or support their organization and post about them. It's huge. And you're right. They don't teach any of this in law school. So maybe you should teach a law school course as an adjunct.
I
Get
have
them started
spoken.
young.
I have spoken at some law schools, but not in any kind of formal fashion. But yeah, I mean, I think law schools are starting to turn the corner in their practice management groups and things like that, but classes. But it's still, a slow moving train. So let me ask you this: you've got strong networking acumen. You definitely doing the givers thing, and is that then relating to how business does come back to you and how you get So for example, higher conversion rate with clients and locking up more business?
Yeah, what I found is the key to conversion is to provide a solution, and it's counterintuitive again. Again, Seinfeld. The idea is that, hey, well, I'm giving away my time. They could take my knowledge and then take it elsewhere. I don't want to do this. I always want to bill them for this. But a quick, hey, this is your problem. Here are the solutions. Here are the steps to solve your problem. And here are a couple ways that this could go. I always call it my philosophy on problem solving. We'll have a different event, a different podcast on that, hopefully at some point. Is that I have a decision tree for them. I give them all the possible scenarios and say, this is what it looks like. We have to dig deeper into it. However, I can't give you a straight answer, but these are some of the things. What the goal is on the call is to give them a sense of relief, give them the idea that you're there to help them, that you don't really care about the fee at that point. All you really care about is giving them options and thoughts. That residually, my conversion rate's near 100% as a result of that. And the only clients that we don't convert are typically, because of our network where we get our clients from, are ones that just don't fit our outside general counsel model. So, I mean,
But I think you're missing something that I just want to insert into what you just said.
sure.
I think there's a transference or transferal of trust when you're getting referred people. They're coming in sort of pre-sold. Like they're probably gonna hire you. If you showed up in a clown suit and made funny noises, like they're 9 out of 10. They're gonna go with you, and then you're demonstrating your expertise and then demonstrating how you help walk them through that, that problem to solutions is just the icing on the cake. I think for some, yeah.
Yeah, see that? I thought it was really good, but it's just my network, which is great.
Well, that's the thing though, but
It's even better.
so when the lawyer that I spoke with spoke to his 2 junior people about meeting with me, there was really not a lot of question that they were going to meet with me. Now, hiring me and engaging me is a different story, but that transferal of trust from him to his underlings and to meeting with me, they weren't going to say no because it was too solid of a relationship that the way he was talking about me. So I think a lot of it's that where I get concerned is when, let's say, someone's coming to you, but they're worried that maybe you're too small, or maybe they're worried about, they're talking with you and 2 or 3 other very successful law firms. And, now it's a little bit of, a competitive situation where, having a really good system for how you run that meeting will win the day more than maybe someone else who's just doing an aggressive pitch about this is why our firm's so great and this is why I'm so great. And, that kind of, the pitch meetings that people talk about.
Yeah, and and that's why I tell people, I said, no, I encourage you to go talk to other law firms. And one of the key takeaways I always say, I said, if your discussion with them is better than your discussion with me and you don't feel the same way, I encourage you to go to the other law firm.
Mm.
And I say on top of that, I said, and I would appreciate, just as a courtesy, you came through a good referral source, or this is how you came in. I would appreciate if you would give me that attorney's name, because we have a lot of conflict and I would love to give that attorney some referrals.
Yeah.
And it's true, because I can't find a lot of attorneys that do what we do, that approach these things in the way that we approach them, especially on the transactional side. There's a lot of litigation attorneys we deal with on a daily basis, but the transactional, we want to, and I think you brought that up earlier today, we want a community of attorneys that are smarter. And, if it happened the other day, and I'm sorry, I could go on one more tangent here. One of my clients said, well, we saw a trucking agreement that was a little bit different than yours. It had these provisions. I go, can you connect me with the attorney so I can send my trucking agreement to that person and hope that they'll send me theirs, so we have a better trucking agreement to protect all of our clients in the trucking industry. And it's not, I'm going to beat that person. We want the agreement because we're protecting our clients.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ken. Tell Ken, sorry.
There we go. Really great. So let's hit one more point and then we're going to wrap things up with our game-changing book. Ultimately the key to success, and I think that kind of wrapping this up, is that we need to build a network. We need to build a network with the right people. The way to do that is to meet enough people to decide that there are kind of people, ask enough questions, be a good listener, help them selflessly, and good things come back to us. And also when we meet with prospective clients, that we're again listening and putting them in a position to kind of walk them through a buying decision to make sure it's a good fit. And if it is, great. If it isn't, well, good. And hopefully you end up with a great lawyer outside of me. But what I think you're also saying is that generally they just go with you.
Yeah. And if it's okay, I'd like to sort of expand on something that you said. Along with this networking side of things, and everyone's client focused and network focused, but it took me, I don't know, 27 years to figure out who my people were and who would feed into my model, my business model, where I can help the most people, not just clients, just help the most people. I found out that accountants and financial planners and insurance brokers, commercial and industrial insurance brokers, were my people. And that, to your point earlier, makes the conversion rate, the trust factor, even better. So the concentration on those strategic partners is equally as important as going, and hitting the streets, talking to people.
Yeah. And if you're not in a position to articulate when you're networking who those targets are, you may then be wasting time. So if insurance and financial planners and such, and you're not openly telling people as you're networking that those are the people that you want to meet, then they don't know. And so they think you want to meet other lawyers, or they think they'll keep their eyes open for you. And I did air quotes because that's a BS line that everybody gives. I'll keep my eyes open for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will every day.
Yeah.
That without sharing that intention of who you really want to meet and who are your people, it's very hard for people to get you in front of those folks. So I just think that's a really good place to end, because that advice is so freaking sound that people should be writing that down. FYI. Phil, holy mackerel. Game-changing book, Buy Back Your Time. Who's that? Dan Martle?
Dan Martell.
Martell.
One of the two. Yeah.
All right. So what is that? Buy Back Your Time.
Yeah, that's a game changer. I'm an avid reader, and everybody hates when I read books because then I immediately implement whatever's in the book, and I start chasing me. They go, "Oh no, here he goes again." But that book is a rock star, and it will help you. And basically, the book, summarize it just quickly, is that you are in your business all the time, doing things, learning things, implementing things, but there are probably hundreds of things you do on a daily basis that you shouldn't be doing. Buy Back Your Time basically says you figure out what those things are, and it's the Phil Fulton delegate and elevate that he always talks to me about, is you figure out what you can delegate. Once you delegate something, you're freed of it, and then someone else is doing it. And likely, if you hate doing it, they're doing it better than you because they love doing it. And that's sort of the shocker of the book is that, hey, someone likes to do things I hate. So why not give it to them because they love it?
Yeah.
So the idea is you figure out what your business projects. So let's say you make $100,000 a year of profit out of your business. You do a mathematical problem and determine, that's in the book, and says, okay, you can spend $25,000 on a person that's going to go ahead and do all the things, your emails, your calendaring, your scheduling, whatever it may be. And that'll free your time up to do more of the things that you need to do for your business. And in this situation, it's freed me up to do business development and client interaction and doing podcasts with Steve Fretzin. So
there we go. Yeah. I mean, it's time management, maybe 101 or 201. We can decide what level. Ultimately, there's, as you said, a lot of things that are way under the lawyer's pay grade, and yet they're still doing their bookkeeping. They're still making copies. They're still doing admin, still doing basic marketing. And it's a huge mistake. So I try to get all my clients to do their business development, build their high-end hours, and then think about how they can delegate just about everything else. And that's not easy to do, but it's the right thing to do. So I think check that book out, everybody. Buy Back Your Time. Want to take a moment before we wrap up, Phil, with thanking our sponsors, of course, Rankings.io, Lawmatics, and Get Staffed Up, all amazing friends of the show. And Phil, if people want to network with you, they want to kind of get a real flavor for the way you've been doing things, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn always works out. It's under my name, Philip Fornaro.
Yep.
Love to network with people. If something reverberated, with you, I'm glad to help you. Just call me. I've never refused a phone call, or an email, and I will get back to you. It's important. And just do those things. And maybe this is a good starting point, Steve, for some of these people that are having difficulty networking. I'm an easy lead. Just call me and you're going to get a return call, and then we can chat.
And there's a good chance that you're going to find someone quality to introduce them to, because you're going to do what I do, which is you ferret out like what are the real connections that are going to be meaningful to people and make them happen. Maker of dreams is maybe where we'll call it.
Yeah, no, I like
maybe
it.
Not. Maker of dreams. Okay. Phil, thanks so much, man. Not only do I appreciate you as a friend, I appreciate you as a part of my Rainmaker roundtables and just doing a killer job on this podcast and really sharing a lot of wisdom. I know the people listening right now are nodding along with me that this was well worth their time learning from you today. So thanks, man.
No, thank you. I learned a lot from you, and thank you for all your efforts to help me grow as an attorney.
Yeah, well, listen, it's all about partnerships and all that. So everybody take heed, take warning, make some changes, lots of improvements. Go back and listen to past episodes of this show. I mean, there's so much knowledge and information that's going to be helpful to you in your career. And Phil is just the best example of that today. So thanks everybody for spending time with Phil and I today on the Be That Lawyer with Fretzin podcast. Take care, everybody. Be safe, be well. We'll talk again very soon.